Fun.
Oh, very good. We're live.
Yes, we are.
Woohoo.
Hello.
You dropping the little music?
Yes, I am. The
Very
music
good.
has been dropped.
Ah, very good. There's a little delay still with me, but that's okay.
It's okay. We're working on it.
We'll
figure
power
it out.
through it. Power through it.
That's right. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what are we talking about today? We're talking about getting what you want and being grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
The concept that I want to talk about is the hedonic treadmill, which is the idea that we basically adapt to anything that we get, positive or negative. And basically, that after a while, no matter what happens, most of the time, excluding a few, serious major events, a lot of the times you just return to you have a baseline of happiness and you return to it, whether it is something positive that happens to you or a negative thing that happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that the ancient art of Stoic philosophy and Stoic Joy, which is a book by Irving, teaches us that it's good to practice gratitude and practice what you have, practice gratitude for what you have, and appreciate the things you have, because at some point in your life, these things were outside of your realm of possibility, and it's good to acknowledge that and enjoy them and savor them.
Yeah, I think that, it also ties into, or I guess, this is something that's commonly brought up where, where people always say more money won't make you any happier, or, it's like just because if you think that, oh, I just need more money, or I just need a bigger house, or I just need, to get a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, or I just need to get married, and then I'll be happy. And that's not the case at all. It's not these sort of oh, I just have to get X and then I can be happy. You have to learn how to be happy with or without that person or income or, material item, because you'll get that short burst of happiness from, whatever it is that your goal is in achieving. But then after a while, like you said, you get used to it, and then you're just back to, if you were, a grumpy, pessimistic, miserable person before, you'll just eventually slide back into being that all over again. And then, whatever it is that you were seeking to get, and then you have it, suddenly it's not enough anymore, and you need to find something else to make you happy. And I think the whole, keeping up with the Joneses thing is, alludes to that as well, where it's just oh, we got a big house, but now we need a 2-car garage because our neighbors have one or whatever. Right.
Yeah. That idea, because it's a hacking of our natural inclination and bias to be a social group and to belong and to have things to be normal, right? To think of ourselves as being in the in group and not to be outside of the tribe. But that is hacked by a consumerist society to basically not have you enjoy life, and that natural instinct, that evolutionary instinct, is just basically subverted to make you a very miserable person, constantly chasing the next big little candy to get the next little jolt of, now I feel good. And meanwhile, your life ultimately doesn't... yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Don't mean to distract you.
Yeah, well... But yeah, and so it's yes, it's not, I can't find contentment and peace and joy and happiness in my existence because now I have to get on to the next things. And I'll give you a small little vignette. I remember at some point I had, this goes just to upgrading your life in every area, I guess. But at one point, I was upgrading my, I stopped being a teenager, and I was like, okay, I'm in my 20s now. I have to, dress a little more sharper, dress up like an adult a little bit. And I started upgrading my wardrobe, and I remember getting a pea coat, and getting it and basically wearing it and not feeling comfortable wearing it. And what's interesting is I look back at that now, and it's kind of like a regular thing that I wear. I always like, take pride in my, the coats I wear. I really like them, and they're sharp looking, and I appreciate that, my own sense of style right now, that's just a normal thing. And I always just am grateful that I get to dress a certain way. It doesn't take that much effort, but I remember reflecting back on when it just felt really awkward or weird, or when I just had high school clothes, that was just something that wasn't present in my life. And now it's just a very regular thing that I could take for granted. But I always just take a moment and just say, oh, you know what? Yeah, looking pretty good there.
Looking sharp.
Yeah, and it's a nice feeling, and it's something small. It's something that I don't necessarily have to acknowledge. There's a lot of bigger fish to fry, right? But I always think to myself that at one point I felt, awkward wearing, a nice pea coat, that was looking sharp, because it just didn't feel comfortable on me. That at one point you just thought of as just outside of your possibility, realm of possibility.
Right. Sorry. Okay, never mind. Yes, I agree. And I think that is a good way to sort of not keep yourself immune from hedonic adaptation and just getting used to whatever it is that you've got, but it's a great way to reappreciate and acknowledge the things that you do have, because marketing is a big thing where it's always, how do we get people to buy more and want more and spend more money, and so they want you to have that, they want you to get used to your current material situation as soon as possible, because they want you to get bored with it so that you buy the new thing. But we know very, very clearly that just buying more stuff doesn't make you any more intrinsically happier. And so and so being able to reflect and have some gratitude, and even being like, back when I bought that coat, it was so weird, and now it feels normal and comfortable, and acknowledging that, and maybe, taking some nostalgia or something in it and reflecting upon it, that helps you just reappreciate the things that you have, and not, and not sort of be like, oh, it's not good enough, I need more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so the idea is always to appreciate the things that you have now, that if somebody looked outside or in a lesser situation, they would say, oh my God, you're blessed. What are you complaining about? But because you've been in it, you can't see that, wow, this is a really awesome part of, life right now. And I'm going to do a book review on The Art of Stoic Joy, and the book on Stoicism, and there they talk about the idea of just constantly checking through your life and running down and thinking about the things that that if they weren't in your life, you'd be really upset, and it always makes you appreciate the things that you have. And hedonic adaptation is just constant. It's an ever present sort of mechanism that you just basically adapt to whatever circumstances you have. And that's not going to leave you feeling good. That's just going to leave you running and chasing the next shiny thing. Yeah, exactly. Because you get bored, or you're just like, hey, I need to have this because, John has it. And it's just like, that's not an inherently, you're just reacting to life, and that's not a good. You're living in reaction. It's not a good feeling. And you're constantly not happy. You're constantly chasing. And yeah, it is a little dystopian how the marketing for all this stuff is like, hey, make these people feel pain and isolation. Jeez, I don't, that's not, I don't know if that's really the best thing for human flourishing.
Yeah, no, but I mean, companies that are, selling products or something aren't looking necessarily for human flourishing. They're looking for the flourishing of their pockets.
Yeah, 100%. And the goal is to get into good state by thinking about the things that you have right now that you could be really, really, really deeply grateful for. And I mean, it could be as simple. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be as simple as the idea of some sort of a sense that you have. And I mean, like, vision, the idea that you have vision is like, there's millions of people right now that can't see. And, we don't think about that. We live in a me world where we're thinking about our experience. And it's like, yeah, I take for granted the fact that I have vision. But that's not a given, that's not a given for a lot of people. And the fact that you have it, it makes you be like, it's kind of good that I have it, yeah. And moving on to, whether it's body parts or people in your life, family, a job, a living situation, and moving forward from there. You could be as grand or as small as you want in the exercise, but the exercise is to just take a little a snippet of your life and just focus on it and be appreciative for it.
Mm-hmm. I feel like meditation is a useful tool in this respect as well, where it's just sort of helping balance you out, and even if you're not practicing gratitude while you're meditating, you are sort of taking a step back from everything and looking at life not through necessarily your own like personal myopic view, but this more bird's eye view where you don't have to feel as attached to the things that are going on in the moment.
Yeah, meditation definitely is a good companion to gratitude, because it does, and you could even do a meditation on the things you're grateful for in your life. But yeah, absolutely, it does help you create that distance and not be so reactive, right? That's the whole general practice, is to be a more centered, mindful human being.
Yeah, and it's really, as you've been talking about, trying not to react to things. It's like, it's really being able to take control of your life in the sense of how you like the actions that you choose to take on certain things, and how you bring yourself to situations.
Yeah. Right, like not being reactive. Is that what you mean?
Right. So, yeah. Sorry.
No, I get what you're saying. That was the crux of my point too, is that, when you're on the hedonic adaptation, you're constantly in reaction, and being reactive sucks, because that means somebody else is dictating the tempo and the name of the game. When you're in control, when you're centered, when you're practicing meditation, you're practicing gratitude, you're focused on the things that are good in your life, it's not easy to sell you some crap, some tacky BS that you're going to forget. And again, okay, so whatever, let's say you strike it rich, you get what your dream is, to have some sort of supercar, right? You get that supercar. After a while, that supercar is going to feel like any other car you have, and that feeling is going to be gone, and you're going to see the guy next to you with another car, and you're going to have that same anxiety. And just in another parallel world, if you, instead of getting the supercar, you want, I don't know, like a mid-ranged SUV, and that's what gives you the boost of, dopamine as you get it, then you see the guy with the Porsche SUV, and then you're getting anxiety. So it's constantly, the only constant is this feeling of anxiety and this fleeting, happiness jolt that you get with the, your neurochemicals firing off, but you're constantly in reaction, where you could take also into any moment, regardless whether you got a car, regardless you get anything, you could actually take control and feel gratitude and put yourself in a good state. Trident Lion, the guy that we did the collaboration video, cool channel, check him out, subscribe. He talked about, I really liked his idea of putting yourself in a good state, because, when you're in a good state, you're in control. You're centered. You're thinking about your values. You're thinking about the things that need to get done. You're thinking about the big picture, and you're more likely to make good decisions, right decisions. When something got you hooked, something got you triggered, whether it's the next thing you're chasing, and you're coming from a place of scarcity and out of controlness and reactiveness, you're going to constantly just feel like you're behind, behind the Joneses, behind life, behind getting the thing that you want. And the hedonic adaptation, that's a crappy life. That's I would say if you get to the end of your life and you've constantly been just chasing tacky, crap, you're not going to be a happy human being.
Right. Well, and because it's letting, you mentioned this earlier, but it's letting other people, whether it's marketers or your neighbors or your frenemies, it's letting these other people dictate your life and how your life is going to go, rather than you setting your own path forward and your own plans and establishing your own values. And that's why I think it is so important too, to have a really strong sense of who you are and what's important to you and in your life. Because if you're somebody who cares a lot about connection and with really strong relationships with people, and I don't know, going out, and maybe you really enjoy being in nature, but you're in this reactive mode where you're just following what everyone else is telling you to do. And so you're like, oh, I need to, get the latest iPhone that's out every 2 years. And I need to get the latest, I need to get the upgrade on the car or whatever. Then you're probably going to either feel like crap or just not really feel anything, because it doesn't mean anything to you. You're just doing what everybody else is doing, or doing what other people are telling you to do. The same can kind of be said when it comes to college, because a lot of people don't necessarily, they don't do well in college, or college is just not the right environment for them. But society, families, friends, everybody's oh, you're going to college, right? And so it's there's a lot of people, and I had some friends too when I was in college, where it was oh, I guess I'm going to college, and then halfway through they would drop out because it wasn't the right place for them, and it wasn't the place that was going to make them happy. Yeah.
Well, it applies to everything from business to college, the life choices you make, and also, it's the belief that you hold that at some fundamental level you're responsible for, the life that you live, and somebody can't be dictating that for you. And that's I always found that at some point you have to make that decision. You own this, and you're gonna own the choice and consequences, good and bad. And you gotta have to do things that make you happy. And it's not, playing other people's games is a fool's errand. Society has a bunch of games that really just suck and don't have a nice payoff. Whether it's college, a 9 to 5, when it comes to relationships, people play games. When it comes to, interacting with people, what kind of people they have around themselves, how they get married, and what rules they have there. There's all kind of, things that people set up that aren't necessarily healthy. And just because everybody says it's okay, it doesn't mean that it's okay, And right. Things change, societies change, and what one society considered, okay, the other one's going to consider backward, or I don't know, visionary or something. I don't know. It changes.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And there are some things that have stuck around and existed and are practiced to this day because they're useful and they serve a purpose, and they're good for us. But then there's plenty of other traditional things that make absolutely no sense and we don't need in our lives. So yeah, I think it's just, being able to discern, okay, what's going to be good for me? What do I really need? Versus either what I think I want or people are telling me that I want. What's going to be really good for my well-being and, just like my happiness as a human.
Yeah. And well, yeah, I agree. And it's kind of interesting that we weaved off the gratitude and focused more on the topic of being in control and not being reactive. But I think that goes at the core of it. When you put yourself in a good state, you're centered, you're in control, and you're going to make the right decisions for yourself in the moment. You're not gonna be reactive. So I think it does make sense that happened. Do you have anything that any stories, anything that you focus on? Oh, well, you were going to ask for, our previous topic was about asking and getting what you want. You talked about, you want to share that, that you asked for?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's a happy story, happy ending. Okay, so last time we talked about asking for what you want, and I can't remember, did I give like the full context of it, or did I just...
No.
Okay. All right. So I can give the full context now because it's over. So I got a new job, and so I, quit my old one. And so on Friday when I quit, I was a little bit nervous about it just because, I had to tell my manager, and then I had to tell the CEO, and, it's like people who are higher up than me and everything like that. And then the other thing too is that I had commissions from last quarter that haven't been paid out yet, and I wasn't sure whether or not we'd get them because companies can be sketchy sometimes and not pay that money that they owe you.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So fortunately, everything went way better than I anticipated. I didn't expect it to be terrible, but I don't know. I was a little nervous. But I told my manager, and she took it really well. She was happy for me. She was just like, yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Right.
And then I told the CEO, and I think he was a little more emotional about it. But when I asked about the commissions, the really great thing was that the night before, you and I had planned out like this whole sentence of how I was going to say it and what specifically, how should I word it, and then if he says no, like, okay, what's my response going to be? But fortunately, I started it, and I didn't even have to finish the sentence. I was like, oh, by the way, I have some outstanding commissions, and I was wondering if, and then before I could even finish, he was like, oh yeah, no, don't worry. That's definitely going to be paid out. I was like, oh, that's great.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. And I mean, we did practice it, and I mean, it's always good to be prepared and practice for the thing. But yeah, it was great that it was like so smooth, and it didn't even matter. They were like, oh yeah, no problem, you got it, and that was just such a good nice little surprise. Right.
And so then I guess it wouldn't have mattered necessarily if I hadn't asked, but at the same time, I'm glad that I did, because now I know for sure that I'm going to get that commission. And so it's not going to be like a big question mark hanging over my head. And then I think it's just good practice as well for any time something like this happens again in the future, because there's definitely going to be times when, I'll have to ask uncomfortable things or bring something up that might make me a little nervous. And so the more practice that I can get in, the better.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that the idea of practice and being ready for asking, what you want, that's always going to be coming up. And in every, facet of life, any field, you're going to be dealing with asking for things. And it's good to, practice. All
right.
Yeah. Anything you wanted to cover regarding? Oh, here we go.
No, I don't think I have anything else to cover. Today's a little slow brain day for me.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We're on it. Hey, and you know what? I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna try to get rid of the slag for us, so that next time we do, we're planning to do these a little more earlier on, right? But also
a little more frequently.
Yep, exactly. But also, I wanna make sure we get rid of the slag and have a little more, flow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but otherwise, you wanna drop the little sequence, the little intro?
Yes, I do want to drop it. Oh, wait.
Yeah, what did you do? Don't move it. You're messing up the set. All right. Just don't worry about it. Just
no, hold on. I think I did it this time. There we go.